Hello everyone, welcome to Next Gen AI with Sai YouTube channel. Today we are going to see the third part of this real-time application video series, I can say, where we are going to build the third component, that is the front end. So those who are watching first time, maybe you're not aware, or maybe you haven't watched the previous video what we have done. So let me summarize for you guys what we have done till now, and then we'll quickly start the third part. So in the first part, guys, we have done the backend code. In the second part, we have built the fast API, or I can say API. Fine. And in the third part, we are going to see the front end. So what we are trying to build, we are building a real-time AI app. So when I say real-time, it means the production-ready AI app, where we know that generally the support team receives lot of queries regarding the issues, right? The issues may be related to the HR, issues may be related to the finance, issues may be related to the IT support. So generally, these guys have some kind of KB article or some portal where the most of the issues has been documented. But going through this document takes a good amount of time. So for the sake of simplicity, we are using a AI agent which will take care of this work. Rather than searching through this vector database, we have AI agent which will talk to our front end. Then the back end has the agents. The front end, so for a front end, we have some simple UI. This UI built on Streamlit app. So Streamlit is a library that we are going to use to build this front end. And then the backend is built on agents. These agents built using Langgraph. And to access this agent, we will use microservices concept. And these microservices we built using the API. And to build this API, we have used FastAPI. Now, how to do this, how to achieve this, I already cover in depth pair programming kind of stuff, not pair programming, but you can do along with me. It's a pretty lengthy video, but you can fast forward as you move progress, as you understood the concept. Okay, so that you will be very much clear about the backend and the API. Now, in today's part, we are going to look into the front end through which our end user is going to access this app. Fine. So let's not delay and let's kickstart the coding. Meanwhile, if you have any doubt or anything that you want to share with me, please comment out the section. Even if you like, please comment it out and like also, and share with your friend so that who is building their skill set around these AI agents, building the real applications, you know, they can follow the same strategy, or they can use this as a base strategy and do more and more advanced stuff. Okay, now as we already done the backend, now let me create a folder called front end. We want here our front end to be created, so let me say front end. Okay, front end, right? In the front end, we are going to create one application, and we say app.py. Fine. Now my app.py is ready. The important library that we are going to use is Streamlit. So we import the Streamlit as st. Then we require a request library. We will import it, and also from request we require import some exception, request exception, because there are some cases we get some exceptions. So to use those exceptions, we will use request.exceptions. Okay, so pretty good. Now let's start with the some of the first configuration. So we are going to access our front end. Okay, so we have to specify which URL user is going to use if they want to access this front end. So I say HTTP. As it is currently running in my local, so I say localhost, but in production you can replace through environment variable file or through config file. Okay, so I'm going to say chat, then I'm going to set some timeout, right? Timeout seconds, it will be 25. So any message, okay, so we are keeping this number slightly higher than backend. Okay, so any request which takes more than 25 seconds, it will get timeout. Okay, so if you remember, our backend is 20 seconds, so we need to keep it 25 because sometimes backend send those output to our front end, right? It may require some slightly more time to send those output from backend to front end because of some pre-processing, some kind of process step or post-processing. That's the reason we are setting up the timeout 25, which is slightly better than the backend. Then also we are going to set the max input length, which is 2000, and we are keeping the keep aligned with keep same as backend because that is very important. Whatever backend is accepting, we are setting up the same thing. Now the next is the page setup. Now we already done the front end configuration. Now we wanted to page setup. So for that we are using the set page config method of Streamlit, in which we are going to set up the page title. So let's say my page title will be the real-time AI support assistant. You can add any page icon, whatever, but we are going to see with what the copilot is prompting us. Layout we are keeping center. Okay, initial sidebar state not required, we'll remove this. Okay, so please remember, whatever copilot is giving as a suggestion, it is not always require you to accept everything. Okay, now we already set up are the title, right? Title of that first page, but we have to set up the title for our Streamlit app. So for that we are setting up the same thing, that is the real-time AI support assistant, and here we are saying caption. We are adding some caption. So what captions we are adding? So we are adding caption that intent aware. Okay, then dot, we are saying retrieval augmented. Okay, so that this will be coming. Okay, so when I say retrieval augmented means it is a RAG support base, and then the third we have SaaS-ready architecture. Fine. So we have set up this. Now let's go to the next. Now the third important part. So this is a page setup we have done. Now third important, that the session state. As we have already defined the state in Langgraph, but the purpose is something that all my nodes should be aware about what things uh, to be processed or what the information that we want all nodes to be aware about. Similarly, here we have to store some session. For example, history, right? If history not in state dot st dot session state, then we are creating the history session because we want whatever the particular message that user is communicating those whole session, we wanted to keep it into the list. Again, we want one more things, that we want last request id, right? If last request id, whatever request id is not in the session state, then we are keeping that into the none. Okay, if it is nothing, then the session request id will be the none. Now the third will be the input form. Okay, now what will happen in the input form, that how user is going to connect. The page is ready, right? So let me just say here come. Okay, so see, our page is ready, right? Our page is ready. So this is our page, and inside page we are creating a form, right? Through this form, user is going to connect to our chatbot. Okay, so this is page, and this is nothing but the form. Understood? Right. Now we are going to write the code for this form. So let's write. So for the form, again we are using with st dot. So what happened with this is the context aware things. Whenever you write with keywords in the Python, means within that this has to be out. So all the things happen inside this, which is a context aware. Okay, so when it is open, it will compute everything inside the with. If it is getting out, it will destroy that information, okay, or that the processing. Okay, so with form, I say with form, my I'm giving the name of this form as a chat form, fine, and say clear on submit true, right? So whenever I submit anything on that form, everything will be clear. Now I'm setting up the user input. So the text area within that form, I say user message. That means you can you can say placeholder. Okay, so let me just say here, ask your questions, right? So here it is asking a question. Then I'm saying max input rather than your message. Let me remove that. Okay, max character of max input length, and the placeholder where my text box is appearing, I say type your message here. That placeholder will coming up, right? And then after that there is a button called submit button. So what happened when that submit button will click, streamlit.form submit button will click, this message will send it. Okay, will send to the our API. Now this is done. Now we have to create the code for submit handling. So what will happen once user click the submit? What will happen, right? Once the user click, so again let's go to the whiteboard and see that. So we have created this form, right? Now there is a slightly a box, okay, and inside box there is a something called as a submit button. So we want something to be happen, okay, some action, okay, some action to be performed when click on submit. So we are now writing the code for this action. I hope you are getting. So initially we have wrote the code for this page. Second, we have created the code from this form. So this is a user form and all this. But when the user click on the submit button, what action has to be performed? This code now we are writing. Fine, great. Now let's write the code for this. Now when the status is submitted, right? If submitted, okay, we have written submit button. Let me change this as a submitted. There is nothing as such will happen, but just in line with my code, I'm saying submitted. Okay, if this is true, then what will happen? If not user input, okay, not user input, if there is a no user input or not user input, right? So two times, if that might be a possible, there is a no uh, empty spaces, okay, or maybe there is a empty spaces without that also, right? We want to handle all the edge cases. I'd say the error, please enter a message before submitting, because it may happen the user will click this button without any message, right? So this is a false, this is a false input for us. So if even if click the input without any message, then we should give this warning, please enter your message, right? Now please remember these kind of edge cases you guys have to handle while working on the production ready app. So we are saying place if, else if the placeholder, okay, once, now what happened, once if there is any message, that message will go, right? And we want that placeholder to be empty, right? If that placeholder is empty, then we are saying, so if there is a message, what happen, placeholder become empty, correct? Now let me write the automated message. Let me write here message, for example, let me give example, how do I upgrade my billing plan. So let's say I'm giving example to user, right? So what kind of message user can share here? So I'm giving placeholder. Now if once user type that message, this placeholder become empty, right? So else I'm saying that my placeholder is become empty, right? Try with placeholder dot container, okay, and I'm saying info, okay. So what info will coming in the placeholder? It coming sending request to backend. This will come, okay. This message will come in the this placeholder container, okay. So now it is saying message that your request send it to the backend. Now we understood that we got the response from backend. So to capture the response, we are creating variable called response, and we are sending request dot post, and here is my API URL. Okay, I say IRL, say U. So this is my API URL. Okay, I'm sending the input through this JSON message user input and timeout to the timeout second. Okay, so this is my API URL for my backend. Okay, now this is my front end URL. Okay, I'm sending post request and then response raise for status, right? If there is any error, then I'm saying raise for status, and I'm capturing the response in the response.json. Now I'm capturing the answer in the answer data dot get response into the response, otherwise no response from backend. And also I'm capturing the request ID which is getting from the data. So we are capturing our output into the data, okay. And also I'm capturing the request ID. If no, then it is saying that /any. Now we also need to store the conversation, correct? We need to store the conversation. So for that we are saying st.session state history dot append. So whatever question that user is saying, so we are saying we are capturing this input into the, let's say u means user. So we are saying, let me write in multiple. So this is a u, that is user input. U means user, okay. User input strip. Okay, I'm capturing the user input in this. Similarly, I'm capturing the assistant output in a answer dot strip, okay. You can write this way also in dictionary format, or you can say, write out in a separate line as well. So let me keep it as it is in the dictionary format, okay. Now, or probably let me try in the simple, set format. So I can type this way also, okay. Let me write new line for this. Yep, but one more extra dot append one more. Yeah. Similarly, I want to write for assistant also, okay. Right. So here I have to say you. Similarly, assistant answer dot strip, okay. Similarly, now we have to session state. We have to capture the last request ID. So we are saying session state dot last request ID is equal to request ID. Great. Now let me write except, otherwise the try show throwing will throw the error, okay. And say st dot error communicating with backend, okay, with that error. And similarly we are write finally block as well, okay. And say placeholder dot empty. If there is nothing, finally we want my placeholder should be empty. Great. Now we store all our chat session but we want to render that history as well, right, on the page. On the backend we have done that, but let me render the history part as well. So I'm saying if st.session, if my session state contain history, then I want Streamlit dot divider, want to place divider, okay, with st dot subheader, that is the conversation. Okay, so rather than chat history, I'm saying we wanted our converse history part to be show, right? So we say subheader, and we wanted to say the conversation part as well. Okay, great. Now we are saying for speaker comma text in streamlit.session.history, right? If speaker is equal to you, right? Right. So in how we are storing our message in history, we are saying that my you is contain the user input, my assistant will contain the answer. So we wanted to retrieve that information from my session.history. If my speaker is you, then it will mark down in this format, that is you and text. Otherwise it will mark down into the this way. Fine. So this is what I want to showcase my chat history. Similarly, we want some footer info as well, and here we can say if st.session.contain the request id, again I say divider, and I say my caption as a request id. Rather than last, we say just request id, and we are presenting that as well. Now everything is ready. This is how my front end will look like. Fine. Okay, now let's revise what we have done till now. So if you look at this code, so here we have initialized our Streamlit, initialize the request through which we are connected to the backend. Here we are specifying the API URL. So this API URL is for the backend on which our chat will be connecting. Sorry, initially I have said wrong. This is our backend API URL. Okay, so on which our backend API is accessible. This is a timeout, is slightly better than our backend, so we are setting up the 25 so that our response will be handled, which is if the time second is within the 25, and max input length which is 2000, same as it is. Now in this block of code we have setting up our page configuration, which is a very common in Streamlit app. Similarly, we are mentioning the title and the caption for our Streamlit. Then the second part, we are creating the session state in which we are storing all our conversation history and the request ID. This is the input form where user is going to ask the questions, right? And we have set up this information like what will be my max character, what will be my placeholder, okay, and what that form contains. So that form contain one submit button. Now what happened once user click the submit? If the text box doesn't contain any user input, then it will throw the error as a warning. But if it doesn't contain, it contains text, then we want my placeholder become empty, and whatever the placeholder, it should give the information that sending request to the backend once the request is sent. And then this request will go to my API URL on which my backend is running. It will go in this format, that is message colon user input, and the timeout will be the second. Okay, so we can also set up the timeout. Then if there is any error, it will throw the error, it will give some error, and then we store this input into the data. Then we are capturing the answer data, right, from the response, because data is a dictionary in which answers capture in the response key, and similarly the request id will be the key where request id will be get captured, and then we are storing all this information our session state. If there is any error, then it will say error while communicating with the backend. Similarly, we wanted to show our history as well, conversation. So this is a rendering code in which we can see how my request will be showcased on the Streamlit UI. So my front end is also ready. Now let's run the code. Please note that to run this code, we require some library to install. So we have already captured, put all these required library into requirement.txt. Please install it. But before that, install, you can create the virtual environment on which all these packages is getting installed. How to create virtual environment? Please watch the first video. You will get the clear understanding. After that, we need to set a few information, that is open API key, as it is required to connect the open API LLM model. Okay, and the LLM model will help us to respond on the questions that we have asked, right? So this is also required. Now first, to run this code, we need to first initiate with the backend code. Unless until backend is not running, we cannot run our front end. So let me open the terminal. Okay, so okay, here is my terminal. Open command prompt. Right, so you can see it's automatically detecting my virtual environment. And to run the backend code, okay, let me go first. uh, Let me use command uv on backend is my folder name, directory name in which I have my main. Okay, and I want to run this code. Okay, so if you can look at this, my backend, this I have my main. Okay, in which the main, my I want to run this API. Okay, so we have initiated our backend with the app object. Okay, so that's why I'm saying backend, sorry, it should not be a colon, backend dot main, and I have app. And if you want your program to reload whatever changes you have done, let's say you have done some changes and you say save that code, it will reload again. So for that I can say reload. Okay, and let's run this code. Now guys, I'm running along with you so that if any error comes, we will try to solve that error. Okay, so cannot import typedict from typing. So we are getting this error. Let's see that. Where is my backend code? My front end. Close this. Let me close this. So it is saying cannot import name typedict from typing. In line number B. So if you look at this, it is saying graph.py, not here. So in the graph.py, let's go. Okay, cannot. Okay, so we require typedict, by the way. Search where we use typedict, where we have used typedict, not import the typedict. Okay, so typedict is not available here, so we cannot say, but there is something called library called typing extension which will import the typedict. Let me save this. Now if you can look at this, will okay reload automatically, right? So from typing exception, if I want to import the typedict, also not importing, cannot import typedict from typedict extensions. So from here also we cannot import the typedict. Typedict available here, or it should be a ah, so the spelling mistake was there. Should not be a type, it's typedict. Now let's see what do we get, error or not. So actually the error was in the graph.py where our agents has been configured. So please note that small things. Okay, if you can read the logs, you will clearly notice from where this error is coming. Now it is reloading our backend. Okay, great. Now we are again getting some error that Chroma init got unexpected argument persistent. So vector store. Okay, so where it is our vector store? Okay, so there is a no something called as a argument called as a persistent directory. Okay, let's see. Is it something persistent? Okay, I think it's a persist directory, maybe not persistent directory. Let me. These are the small error guys will come while you working on such a application, but you can easily solve, at least in the current days you can easily solve this error. That's not a biggie. Okay, is there any new error come now? uh, is saying that the lang depreciation, the class Chroma was depreciated. What happened? The type did not. Okay, maybe again say it's the type it should be D in type D. So we have corrected that. Now we have saved this. Let's see. I'll do okay. It's reloaded automatically. So what error we are getting? We're getting some identic error has been moved to identic setting package. Okay, setting package. Okay, for more detail, get this. So here we are getting this error. Okay, it is coming from the package. Let's go up, 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 up. So here we are getting, so some packages too. It seems to be identical. Okay, so it is identical. So do we require base setting first? That is okay. We are capturing the base here, but let me. Okay, that's what is also not showing here. So it is saying base setting has been moved to the pydantic settings. Move to the pydantic setting package. Let's say from pydantic settings, what base settings? This will or not. Okay, but the pydantic settings is not installed. Okay, it is already installed. Great, it is captured. So when we are maybe installing pydantic, this package also getting installed inside that. Right now we have set this. Now what new error we are getting? Okay, it is reloading. I hope guys now you're getting how we are solving one error at a time. So, so you may initially can run backend code, right? Once your backend code is ready, and then probably you can run the front end, right? But I want this troubleshooting happen at the end of this video. That's the reason I kept it in the third part of the this series. Okay, now it is saying extra input are not permitted. So the inputs are not permitted. So we have installed the line and we are getting error. We'll do one thing. So giving some error. Okay. Let's see here we have class setting localhost 501. So this is the front end on which our API is running. Okay, and then the front end API front end is accessible. So where we are getting our LLM model. my okay, let's go to this graph.py. Okay, so here dot the key is, but how I am accessing okay my environment variable dot in. Okay, my environment okay for table was dot in Chroma d. Then in dot permit. Uh, so in main.py. Okay, this is site package. Okay, these settings are not allowed. We are getting error. Settings. What is let's check out this code. Settings. So setting is we have defined in the main.py. Okay, setting settings. Okay, class. Here we are using okay. This is the okay, and here we are dot origin. Hmm? Because our class name and this name is both are same, so I'm just thinking whether this is the error or not. But let's see. Okay, still we are getting the extra inputs. We sending in extra inputs here. I don't think so. Main.py setup cloud origin. Then fine. Okay, we are still getting some error. So he's saying for further informations. Let's take a help of GPT now. Okay, let's see what it's saying. So model we have before O. Fine. Let's see what 4O model is. Okay, so the error indicates that the settings class from Backend is rejecting extra input field, the open API key. Fine, but are we sending open API key? Okay, so this happens because setting class does not expect or allow this field. Take the setting class definition class likely main.py file or another module which defines setting class. I'm not sure why it is coming because we haven't defined any open API. The in this main class and main.py file does not define prefer. This is why validation error come. Add open API key the settings class asking it open should define in the setting. Okay, so they want open API key to set here. Fine. Let's see. We set open API. But it requires some value, right? Okay, let's read this os.get environment. Let's load from environment. Okay. So for this, let's run this. Let's I have saved. Now it is reloading the backend code. Oh, great. So application startup complete. So what we understood from this thing, that initially I thought it is not required, but my backend also require this class setting, that is where it requires open API key. Okay, so we have set up this open API key as it is required. Great. Now, okay, it is shutting down. By any error? Okay, let's wait. Maybe it's reloading again. Okay, now application startup complete. Now it is time to run the front end. Now for front end, we also require uh, open a new, because I want backend to keep running. I will open a new command prompt. But generally, what happen? Your front end and backend services are running on two different instances. Okay, but in our case, our front end backend is the same. So I'll say Streamlit run. My front end is in the front end folder, and I say app dot. Okay, so I'm using Windows, so I require this path app dot py. So let me run. Let me check meanwhile my backend. Yes, my backend is running. So great. Now if you can look at this folder, the Chroma DB instance getting created. So please note that initially it will run the Chroma DB. It will create the folder once your backend code is ready. Hooray! Now this is how my front end will look like. Okay, as you can see, that error message come, but now it is not showing any error. Now this is how my page will look like. This is how my real-time AI support assistant header is coming. This is something, a caption it is coming, intent aware that we have set up. This is what my form title will be. Ask you a question. If you look at the code, let me open the code. Here we have defined ask you a questions. Where it is, ask you a question. So this is an input, this is a text area, this ask you a question is coming, right? And this is a placeholder for text. Let me ask question. How do I So let's take the question, how do I upgrade my billing? Let's ask the same question, how do I upgrade my and then let's hit enter. Okay, so we are getting some error of 8,000. Okay, so we are getting few error. Let's check that error again. Okay, so attribute error max input length, exception occurs. Okay, so this error will come because we want small letter, because Now change from capital to small. Okay, so let me change to small, not come, okay, because it was not getting at max input and from the object, right? Fine. So this is my string. Let me now let's reload this. Application is finished. Now let's go to the let's type the same my grade A. Let's reload this. How do I upgrade my, let's see what output will be. So it is now, as you can see, it is saying sending to the backend. Again we are getting some error. What error is? The backend is not ready during the task with the name intent item. So we are getting some initialization error with synchronous function. Fine. The application is startup completed. Receive the request. So we are getting some request ID. Then real-time backend request. This will internally await loop. Fine. And type error. No synchronous functions provided to intent. Either initialize with synchronous functions or invoke via async. Okay, so once this error goes and it is not properly able to handle this, right? So we are getting some this type error. Let's take a help from this. Okay, so on the new chat and probably we can ask this. Okay, let's see what how the GPT-4o will help us. Okay, so it is saying the error indicates the invoke method in the Langgraph library is being called, but no synchronous function was provided to the intent. This means that method is being used incorrectly as it requires synchronous function to initialize. To resolve, you should ensure that app.object objects properly initialize the required synchronous or asynchronous function. Okay, it is also saying some changes. So let's look at that. Okay, so what changes it has done? The go main.py is asking for changes. So let me go this. Let's go one by one. So first it is saying graph. Okay, correct. Uh, correct. Timeout is okay. So we have changed our name, right? From setting. That's the reason it is failing. We forget to replace that capital S with the small s. Fine. Let's say keep. Let's say sync. Okay. So what will happen here? This. Fine. Keep. So let's reload this. Application startup is complete. Frontend is running. It's running. Now let's go and let's reload this. How do I upgrade my sending request to the backend and hope so we'll receive some response this time without any error. Okay, so please, as you can see, these errors are coming only because of few slightly change in the name, but yeah, this way it will act. Now again we are getting some error. No worries, let's solve. So it is saying response text optional, facial form object does not support item assignment. So it is await signals. Okay, it doesn't support here. Okay, let's take a help from GPT again. Let me open that and hope GPT help us too. So I'm using GPT, guys. I think nowadays this is a practice or is used to quickly help or to fix rather than going some through some internet. So you likely intended to declare a response type as a variable with default value none and type print option. The correct syntax for this is okay. And this okay, there's a syntax error. Oh, sorry, my bad. So generally the correct method to declare optional is response text colon and optional string. Okay, because so if you can look at this, the error indicate that there is an issue with this line in your chat function, right? So fix you like doing intended to declare response type as a variable. So this is as a variable, right? We want this to be as a variable and the type of the variable is an optional string. We cannot declare, we cannot assign the type of variable like this. So that's the fact. Anyways, I have saved it. Okay, so this was a typo mistake. So let's wait the application to kickstart. Meanwhile, go here app.d. Fine. The application startup is complete. Let's rerun this and let me ask the same question. How do I upgrade in? Okay, and then let's hit. Okay, now it is sending to the backend. Let's see if there any error coming to the backend. It's programming, it's process, but there is something rate limit error where you are exceed your current quota. So maybe my open API doesn't have sufficient quota. Capture this or to run this. Okay, but yeah, I couldn't generate the response. So I also handle the exceptions. But yeah, and if you can see the conversation, I can see like this, it is coming and this is the request ID. If I say how do I will the the okay, if I hit, let's see how it comes. It's sending to the backend. Okay, information is processed but insufficient data. Okay, insufficient limit. So as you can see, I asked this first question, I'm getting second. Again, I ask first question, I'm getting second response. So this is happening because of my quota. Let me reset. Let me use my other open API key and we'll see how it works. As you guys have seen that my open API limit process. So I mean, I cannot use the free credits from my open API key. I also tried to use another open API, but that also got exhausted. So to overcome this issue, I'm using Groq API. So probably if you guys are aware, the Groq is something a third party provider who is providing the LLM. So like a Groq, there are multiple vendors are available in the market who provide, but the specifically the Groq is something who provides the LPO, that is logical processing unit. It's kind of similar like GPU, right? So I have set up my API key here, as you can see, right? Just now. So if you go here and dashboard, you go to the dashboard, and in the dashboard there are different models are available. So currently I'm using uh, Open AI GPT OSS model. So similarly, there are many models are available. As you can see here, GPT, then Meta, Llama model is available. Now Groq also come up with their own model, Queen model. So similar model is available, but as we have already used GPT 4.0, so I thought let's align with the GPT model so that we will do not have many more changes. Okay, and you can set up the API key. Still now I'm using this Groq. It's a free and fast. Believe me, I have used multiple times. If you watch my previous couple of video, you can see I have used this multiple times. Now, so what changes I have done? Let me show that those changes. The first and the foremost changes I have done is something that I have installed the Langchain Groq package. Second thing, as you can see, I'm using Langchain Hugging Face. So why it is required? Because previously I was using OpenAI embedding, but my rate limit crossed, so I cannot use OpenAPI key for also for embedding. So I'm using Hugging Face model. So in Hugging Face model, please note that few couple of things is required. So in environment like Groq OpenAPI key, you require now this Groq API key. Similarly, you require Hugging Face token. Okay, now please remember in Hugging Face token you need to do few thing changes. So you can go, let me go to the part. Okay, so let me com Hugging Face API token. If you go to the Hugging Face API token, go to the user access, and then there is option called settings. So here you have to type my password. Now if you go here, I have set up my Hugging Face token, but in this you have to go edit and please click on this make calls to inference provider, make calls to your inference endpoints. So these permission you have to provide in your Hugging Face token, otherwise your inference will fail. So please note these two changes and you have to add this. Okay, so I have installed Langchain Groq, Langchain Hugging Face, and the third and the foremost, that is this sentence transformer. So this sentence transformer is required. So once you install, you are allowed to use the transformer based model. And why this transformers is required? Because we are going to use the open source embedding model, that is all mini LM LS L6 V2. So this embedding model we are using to create the embedding of our data. Again, if you watch my first version of the video, there I haven't mentioned our sample data. So this sample data is very important. Now currently as a part of this exercise, I'm just using the sample data in the form of dictionary where I'm creating ID1 text and then I'm attaching the metadata. But in general, you guys, you may have a couple of PDF. Okay, so those PDF you are going to extract those data and then you are going to vectorize those data into the vector store. Now, as you can see, I'm iterating over this my sample data, storing into this kind of this. So vector Chroma DB have the method called add text. In this add text, I'm giving this key of text, metadata, and ID, and I'm storing into this format. Okay, so please remember you have to store in this format. Similarly, vector store has multiple format to store this data, but I'm going very simpler format, right? So apart from this, all other things are as it is, but this just to overcome on those earlier error, we need to fix these things. I'll share the GitHub repo of my code, so please use run it. But I would encourage, please watch the video, do along with me, and if you face any error, use Google and the GPT also there. But try out this. Now let me show you how the output will look like. So as you can see earlier, this is my UI. Okay, and let's ask a couple of questions. So let me ask, how do I pay a billing phone bill? Okay, and let's see what will happen. So when I hit the enter and if I look at the my info, so this is the question I have asked. Okay, um right, there it is, was the old one. It will try you 3. Okay. And okay, let's see what output we got. So we got, to pay your phone bill, please contact account department. They will guide you, help through the process. This is correct. Okay. Let's restart the backend so that we'll see the earlier. Okay. So get in touch using the relevant what I got, using the most relevant, the three, uh, right? The intent classify general. No, this was the pre one. Okay. Let me do one thing. Let me restart the backup backend so that we will see clearly. Run this again refresh the front end as well and type the question. So how do I pay phone bill? Okay, so I just wanted to showcase you how the backend is progress so that you will understand that how the processes happen, what steps are executing, because this logger information is not available on front end, it is available on the backend only. So as we have already entered, become the input and then hit the enter. Okay, taking bit time. Let's see, is there any communication? Oh, my backend has not started yet. Let's wait for a minute to start my backend. Okay, still reloader process is going on. My front end is running. So let's wait for a minute. It depends on what kind of processor you are using. Now my backend has started. Now you can see this vector store. Okay, it is giving some warning of Chroma, but we already have installed, so that's not an issue. Application startup is complete. Okay, now let me run this, and I hope so this time we will know why. How do I upgrade account? Okay, let's say now here. So I asked the question, as you can see, it is generating the new request ID as a part of this process, and then it is go to this, it is using this embedding model, classify the intent as a billing, then it retrieve these three contexts based on my, because we said the retrieve context is three, so as we already have retrieve context 4, right? So out of that it is retrieve 3, right? And now let's see what response we have received. I couldn't find this in our documentations. There is some mismatch. Okay. uh, okay, I said, let me say, how do I, okay, now one thing, as you see such a error or such a response, so it may sometimes it's required to you need to fine tune your prompt. So it is not always context, because you can see the context we have generated, but maybe the prompt that LLM is processing, the LLM is not able to understand whether these two things are related to each other. So sometimes this has to be, you have to refine your LLM prompt that you are giving at the time of coding. Okay, so let's ask the another question. How do I take a leave? Okay, so let's see what response we are getting. So see, now I got the question. How do I take a leave? Leave application must be approved by HR over email. Now if you look at my code here, you can see the leave application must be approved by HR. So my LLM is able to understand the retrieve context, okay, and the question I'm asking and able to give the output, right? So you need to work upon this. And as you can see, every time the new request ID is getting generated, you can see the previous conversation history as well. So maybe this is not the perfect, or you can say a good UI. You may require a chatbot, but that provision is also available in the Streamlit if you go with the Streamlit chat interface. So here you can see the previous conversation, upcoming conversation, but that you can just switch and use the chat application of under Streamlit. So you will see the like chat GPT like of UI. Fine. Let me ask the another last question. I have an issue my laptop, how can I fix it? Okay, let us something related to the IT team. So let's see what this. Okay, now great. My assistant gives a response immediately for a laptop issue. Please contact our IT helpless. You can reach out them on the first floor of the building. Fine, get. So it's combined the two things, but yeah, it is giving the output. So I hope so, guys. You like how we have done the last part of our AI applications. So this is just start. We will go adding more and more complexity of AI application building as we move progress. Okay, we have gone through very detailed. Each video is more than 40 to 50 minutes. Please watch it. Please do it along with you so that you will get some experience. You will get also get some error, but based on experience, you will learn or sharpen your skills. Thank you so much. See you soon.